Hey, what's going on, guys? If you're interested in investing for long-term wealth, this is going to be an awesome video for you, especially if you don't really like to read. I'm going to be doing basically a book report on this book here, The Simple Path to Wealth. And I'm going to be giving you my top 5 takeaways from this book, as well as sharing with you my investing strategy, what I ended up coming up with after reading it. And that's not financial advice or anything like that. There's probably different better investment strategies depending on your age, your situation, how much money you got, things like that. But I'm thinking it'll at least get you some ideas if you hadn't started yet, and somewhere like a jumping off point. Because that's really why I wanted to make this video. I just started investing in the stock market this year, and I wish I had done it much sooner. I'm in my 30s now. So if there's someone in their 20s that's watching this video that hasn't started investing and you're about to, then props to you, because you're way ahead of me. And it's good that you're starting out, because there's this article here by smartasset.com that says that the median retirement savings in the age group 55 to 64 is like 120,000. And keep that number in mind. We're going to talk about that number in the first takeaway. And there's just really no excuse not to get started. You've got apps like Robinhood, M1 Finance. These apps, this kind of stuff didn't even exist like 15 years ago. So you can invest with as little as $1. Anyway, so let's roll the little intro thing and then get into it. All right, so the first key takeaway from the book is that once you can live off of 4% of your portfolio, you become financially free. And the reason for this is they assume that the stock market goes up 7% per year, so that's an assumption that they make, and assume that inflation doesn't go higher than 3%. It is currently right now, which is a bummer. But if you retire at 65 and you withdraw 4% of your portfolio every year, that still leaves 3% in there for your portfolio to continue to grow and match inflation. So for instance, let's just keep the numbers simple. If you've got a $1 million portfolio and 4% of that is $40,000, can you live off of $40,000? And would that be enough for you in retirement? You could also go the other way around this, and you could say, I need to make at least $60,000 in retirement. What you would then do is take 60,000 and divide it by 0.04. So if we did that, 60,000 divided by 0.04, then we'd have $1.5 million. So you would want your portfolio to match that. So now that you see that $1.5 million, let's go back and talk about the fact that the average retiree has a median savings of like 120,000. And let's just actually increase it in case the numbers are wrong. Let's say the average retiree has $200,000 in their retirement portfolio. 4% of $200,000 is what? 200,000 times 0.04. That's only $8,000 a year. If you divide that by 12, that's only that's $666.668, lots of sixes. To avoid the devil's number, let's call it $667 in income from that retirement. And that's just not gonna do it for most people. So if you're like me, I'm pretty cynical on Social Security. I'm not so sure it's gonna be around when I retire, but this could supplement your Social Security if you're planning on that being around. But for me, that just is not a number that sits well with me. So my entire goal, like I said, I just started investing this year. My goal is to get to $1 million as fast as I can, hopefully in the next 5 years. Moving on to the second major takeaway is that everyone can do it. I know that number seems big, 1.5 million, but if you look at the math and you invest consistently starting at a young enough age, all it's gonna be is a matter of time. Do you invest enough, consistently enough, over a long enough period of time? So if you're only able to invest like $10 a month when you're 20, 21 years old, that's fine. That's still better than investing no money, because it gets you in the habit. But as you start to earn more money, you build businesses maybe, like that's what I do on this channel, is kind of show people how to make money with real estate and now with drop shipping. As your income increases, you don't go spend it on new cars, you throw it into your portfolio, and over time you might get some chunks of money, you throw that in there, and everyone can retire a millionaire. This third takeaway has to do with more like a mindset shift. Americans, right? We always think about like, what can I buy with this? What new car can I get? What gadget can I get? Purses, shoes, expensive vacations, things like that, right? And that's just because we've been taught consumerism our whole lives. Credit card, right? You've got a $10,000 limit on your credit card. That means you have $10,000, right? So instead of looking at your money and saying, what can I buy with this money? Instead, look at it and say, how much can this money earn me? Put the money to work. Every dollar you have is its own little money printing machine. Let's take something that a lot of people want. A PlayStation. PlayStations are like $1,000 roughly on average, let's just say $1,000. When you buy a PlayStation, you're not really spending $1,000. I mean, you are, but if you were to take that $1,000 and invest it in the stock market, assuming a 7% return for 30 years, say you're 20, instead of getting the PlayStation, put that into the stock market. In 30 years, by the time you're 50, that $1,000 will turn into $7,300. That doesn't even count all the dividends necessarily that you might earn and reinvest. So just consider that. When you buy things, when you don't think about, oh, I got this extra $20, $50, it's not really $20 or $50. You're really stealing from yourself in 30 years when it's gonna be worth a lot more. Put it this way in your mind, do you wanna spend $7,300? It's not, do I want to spend $1,000 on PlayStation? It's, do I want to spend $7,300 on this PlayStation? All right, so next up, the fourth takeaway is why people tend to lose money in the stock market. And it actually doesn't have anything to do with the stock market. It has to do with people. This really boils down to four things. People tend to think that they can time the market like they're fortune tellers, right? The last thing you want to do is invest in the market at the height of 2008 and then see all your money just vanish, right? Well, that's not actually what happens. But people think they can time the market. Like I've been telling people since, honestly, and I've been wrong this whole time, I've been telling people since 2017 that I thought the market was gonna crash. And it's been 4 years and there has been no crash. So imagine, so I stayed out of the market. I was like, oh, I'm not gonna put anything in there. I'm gonna wait for the crash and I'll invest. And what's that got me? That's got me 4 years older with still no money invested. Well, now I'm starting to invest, right? But you get what I'm saying. So when you think that you could time the market and you sit on the sidelines, you're losing money. Most of the time, the market trends up. So on average, when you sit out, you lose money. The next thing is that people think they can pick individual stocks. It's easy, like we see all these, do you ever see those advertisements? Like if you had invested $10,000 in Amazon in 1999, blah, blah, blah. The truth is, who would have known to just pick Amazon and invest everything they had in Amazon? Very few people. Same with like Tesla or picking any individual stock. The chances that that stock is gonna go to the moon is so low. There are companies that you could invest $10,000 in, and then if it's that one company and it goes bankrupt, you lose everything. And you don't wanna do that. That's why they have things like ETFs, exchange traded funds, which are really funds comprised of tons of companies, so that if any one company goes bankrupt, it doesn't kill you. The last reason that people tend to lose money is because they tend to focus on the price movements, which is irrelevant. When you invest in the stock market, what you're doing is you're buying a share, you're buying a piece of that company. That's what you own. You don't care that you spent 200 and it's worth now 100 really, because you still own that one share of stock, which pays dividends. It gives you an asset, right? Your asset is not the money you have in there necessarily. It's the underlying ownership that matters. So what tends to happen is people put in $5,000 and over time they'll see a 10% price drop in the stock market. So like, oh, I want to get out before it goes any worse. But all that's happened is the price has fluctuated, but their ownership, their amount of shares has not changed. So when you do that emotionally and you share stocks and then the price goes up and you haven't bought back in, now you're losing money. And the thing you want to do is when the market goes down, buy more. And that's obviously much easier said than done, right? And lastly, the fifth takeaway I had was that that you want to invest in index funds, especially if you're just a passive investor that just wants to invest into a couple funds and then forget about it, check in on it every month or so. For the average person, including myself, I'm not a stock picker or anything like that. Index funds are the way to go. So that's it. Those are my 5 key takeaways. So let me talk a little bit about my strategy. And by the way, if you're liking this video, don't forget to hit the like button or invest in the like button. I try to make that like button stuff fun, but I just fail miserably like every time. All right, so I use 2 apps. I use M1 Finance and I use Robinhood. And the reason why I don't just use one is because there's pros and cons to both. M1 Finance app, I have a Roth IRA that I max out first. If you want 30 bucks, obviously Robinhood and M1 Finance, there's links in the description. You get a free stock with Robinhood and you get 30 bucks with M1 Finance when you deposit 100 bucks. And if you haven't got started, that's a good enough reason to get started. I use somebody else's link to do that myself. So if you don't, that's totally cool, but just free money and a free stock. So a maxed out Roth IRA, and then I also consider M1 Finance. Over there, you can trade 1 time per day. It's really where you put money and forget about it because you're not actively really doing stuff over there. So I have a Roth IRA, and then I have a normal fund where I have VTI, which is just Vanguard's total index market fund. Super diversified, it does well, and I love that fund. And over on Robinhood, I've started to do a dividend investing strategy that has a little bit more cash flow, and over the long term, those dividends are gonna increase, and that'll be something that'll be good cash flow when I get older. All right, and we got $1,005.55. So that's it. There's really multiple ways you can invest. First, you want to invest in yourself. If you're not making enough money and you want to do some side businesses, you know, there's courses out there that you can take. There's ways you can learn a bunch of stuff for free on YouTube, but you want to get your money up. Side hustles, things like that. I do drop shipping, I wholesale real estate. I can teach you those things if you're interested. That's mostly what's on this channel. But over time, what you do with these what you do with this extra income is you invest it, and then over time, that's going to start to replace your income, and then you can get out of the rat race. And it may not be tomorrow. Do you want to work till 65 or 55 or even 45, 40? It depends on how aggressively you invest. But let me share with you, in my opinion, this is the hardest thing for people to overcome. Let's go back to the $1,000 buying a PlayStation. If you take $1,000 and you invest in a fund called SCHD, that fund currently has a dividend yield of 2.89%, meaning for every $1,000 that you invest in SCHD, right now, it'll pay you $28.90 per year currently. That will go up over time. Your $1,000 will increase in value over time. And that's every year though. So people don't think far enough ahead, and they say, that's so not worth it. I'd rather just get the PlayStation. It'll be more fun, whatever. And then they have to go to the job that they hate. They work a job they hate and then play PlayStation. Sacrifice the PlayStation, make $30 a year and continue to grow that. You won't be tied to a job anymore in the long run. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. I have a couple thumbnails that'll pop up here on the screen for different videos. One of them will be my first 30 days dropshipping on Facebook Marketplace. And the other video is gonna be me doing a wholesale deal, a recent $20,000 one. I'll throw those up on there. Go check them out if you're interested in that. I appreciate you if you're still here, and I'll see you on the next video.